I am excited to call the CTE State Advisory Committee meeting to order. First, we need to make sure we have quorum. So I'm going to do roll call and we'll come back around and see if we pick up somebody. Start with Representative McCool, Senator Higdon, Senator Wise, Deputy Secretary Brindley, Marcus Rogers, Heather Elder, Mike Stone.
Kylie Whitaker representing Mike.
Thank you. Good to hear you, Kylie. Hope Hart. Is there a representative from the Kentucky Farm Bureau? John Phillips. Mike Hesketh.
Here.
I am here, Harmony Little. And my apologies in advance. Alisher, I'm not so sure I know how to bureaucrato.
Yeah, I am here, Alisher Burricanouse.
Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank
Mark Martin. Stacy Thompson.
Yes, hello.
Good morning. Pam Todd. Anna Muse. Janae Allen. Okay, we saw Marcus join us. Yes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we don't have a quorum yet. We can wait on doing the minutes. So we can proceed to the rest of our agenda. So I am going to take chair's privilege and invoke a flexible agenda and move on from greetings from the commissioner.
Thank you so much. And of course, this is my first meeting, so people might have thought, well, that commissioner's long-winded. We want to miss out on that first part, so it might be the issue. But yeah, it's one of the things I've talked about with people was as I was a superintendent 10 years in Lawrence County before walking into this role. And I think the biggest area of growth across our state is in the area of career technical and the focus on career technical and the focus on those personalized pathways that students have. And career technical plays such a large role in that. So even in my old district of Lawrence County, it was the focus on career technical and making sure that students had those opportunities were such a blessing. And one of the largest expansions also came in with those dual credit opportunities that our students have not only in career technical, but in other areas too. So it's to see the work and the change that has gone on in career technical over the past decade and longer has been, I think, one of the best things that's gone on within, not in our department, but also within our schools. The other thing that I was been very thankful for is the investment that our legislature has made in career technical funding over the years. We've had some record funding, but also too, along with that, our Board of Education our Kentucky Board of Education has made CTE funding one of our legislative priorities moving into the session come January. So particularly in the areas of removing the inequity between CTE and ATC funding is one of our priorities. And we're looking at approximately an ask of around $15 million for that. So again, really, really thankful for that opportunity. But again, acknowledging the investments that have been made through our legislature, and so thankful for that, and looking forward to that continued type of investment as we move forward. Also, as commissioner, I've had the blessing of visiting some of our schools. I've visited Callaway, Logan, Estill. I've been in the Ignite Institute, of course, but also in Northern Kentucky. And then next week, I'm traveling to Floyd County to their ATC. If you want to see true performance-based assessments, performance-based, there's nowhere better than in the career technical. We're models in the area. So very thankful for that. And then the other thing, too, that you'll see, and I believe in our ATCs and CTCs, is the pride that our kids have. Because we talk about, as far as the goals of the Kentucky Board of Education and KDE is around vibrant learning. It's around innovation and especially when it comes to accountability and assessment, but also too in collaboration. You could have taken the title goals of KBE away and put CTE's what CTE embodies. It embodies vibrant learning, where it becomes work-based learning, whether it be internships, apprenticeships, those type of vibrant learning experiences is really what CTE is about. And when it comes to innovation, there's so much as far as performance-based assessments that go on within our career technical world. And of course, the model of collaboration between families, between businesses, among businesses, among families, and including our schools, and that work that goes together to give the kids the vibrant learning experiences. So again, when you talk about the goals of the board, I think the CTE world really great examples really embodies those goals. So again, I'm thankful for this opportunity to be here as part of the meeting and also part of the team, and look forward to what we have to come. Turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. We're grateful that you're able to spend this meeting with us and appreciate your comments. Are there any questions or feedback to what you've heard from anybody online? Well, I have to echo what you say about dual credit. As you know, KCTCS is the largest dual credit provider and also have the largest number of students enrolled in it. And we appreciate the opportunity and think that it's such a seamless opportunity, particularly for the career technical programs, for students just to come over. And we know that a lot of them do. So it's a good investment in education for our state.
Well, even as a parent, I had one of my, my two older children had actually, all three have done dual credit through our technical system. Wonderful. One was a welder. Another went to the medical program. Is in medical school now. Had biology through the Ashland Community Technical. So as a dad, I would really appreciate that too. Not only as a former superintendent and as a commissioner now, but have those opportunities for your own children. You really see it at work, and we appreciate those partnerships so much.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hargis to give us an update on the Office of Career and Technical Education staffing.
Thank you. It seems like we always have a lot of new faces, but since we met last in May, we have had several new people, and we've had a lot of retirements. So I'm sure you all remember Reagan Satterwhite. She was our policy advisor for a couple of years, and she actually went on to the Council for Post-Secondary Education. And so our new policy advisor is Lauren Graves. We have recently hired a data manager and an assistant data manager. Amy Tracy is serving as she's our new data manager, and she was actually already with us in another position and has transferred into this. And then we welcomed SD Stiff as our assistant. Lori Looney is our new data and investment branch manager, and Lori is replacing Carla Tipton, who will be retiring for the second time December 31st. And so if you know Carla, we're going to greatly miss her. Chris Smith is another transfer within. Chris is serving as our new Teacher Institute director, and Chris came to us from Corbin ATC, where he was both a teacher and principal. Barry Bond has joined us as the manufacturing program consultant, and Barry was also a teacher. We are in the process of hiring an engineering program consultant. We have the individual tagged. We just haven't been able to get everything finalized. So I think he is actually slated to start with us in January. So we will be sharing his name in the May meeting. And then we're also excited to have Larry Huckabee. He's coming on as our construction program consultant. And Larry actually was a teacher under me as a principal at Pulaski County Area Tech Center. And then he transferred to Lake Cumberland Area Technology Center in Russell County. They will all do a remarkable job. And so we're very excited for these people.
It's great. And it's congratulations to everybody who's retiring. Karen, I think you're with us online. We look forward to hearing from you about the Kentucky United We Learn.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. And I apologize. Had I known so many of you were going to be in the office today, I definitely would have been there. So I'm sorry to be online, but I'm still happy to be with all of you today and give you a little bit of an update on the Kentucky United We Learn Council work. On the next slide, you'll see our just some things to note. We have about 45 members who are currently a part of the council. We are now in our third year, and just a fair warning, I put these slides together a while ago, and as I was going through them this morning, they're a little bit outdated just because things have been moving so quickly around the United We Learn work. So I may not say exactly what's on the slides, but I'll be sure to let you know what's going on. So for our chair, we have Penny Christian. She is our council chair. I feel like everybody knows Penny, but she's been very involved in the National PTA, and as of this last election, she is also a member, a board member in Fayette County now. Dr. Jim Flynn is the executive director of Kentucky Association of School Superintendents. He's our vice chair. He was also a superintendent for quite some time. And I just lead the council work as kind of a special project in my role as chief performance officer. On the next slide, you're going to see our roadmap. So what the council has been asked to do, I'm going to go back just a little bit. It was about 3 years ago when we had a statewide listening tour, and we were gathering, and this was during COVID, so this was all virtual. We had folks attend virtually. We broke into different breakout rooms and asked them a lot of empathy interview type questions. So things like, when is the last time you got feedback on your student? Or what was a meaningful experience for you when you were in school? And all of that information that we gathered helped us to really hone in on what is important to Kentuckians when it comes to education and what needs to change in Kentucky education. And so after the listening tour, we had a coalition for the Kentucky Coalition for Advancing Education, which Dr. Fletcher was a big part of. That team put together a report, and there were 10 goals or themes in there that needed to move forward based on everything that we heard from that listening tour. From there, the Cool Council was born, if you will. So later in that, I would say it was October, November, when we kicked off the Kentucky United We Learn Council. And it took them about a year, the whole first year, just really figuring out kind of where we are in education today, bringing in districts who are already leading some work when it comes to changing education in their districts, and coming up with what we're calling the moonshot. And so at the end of that first year, we have this moonshot, which is to build a prosperous Kentucky. We will launch an accountability system that is meaningful and useful to all our learners. And here you see what we're calling a roadmap, or the journey to the moon. We've gone through several prototypes. There were 4 prototypes that have gone out for folks to give feedback on, a very iterative process. We've invited legislators into the conversation. And I should also mention, of these 45 members, we're talking about teachers, parents, students, business leaders, although not nearly enough business leaders. It's just anybody that we can think of. There was a whole process around getting people onto this council, and we started off with over 70 people. It is around 45 now, but that's because we haven't backfilled because it is moving so quickly right now. So looking at this, we're kind of in between the study phase and where we're going to be actually recommending a model or a framework to the Kentucky Board of Education. They saw a model yesterday, or a framework, version 1, that is currently out there. But we are already working on version 2.0 of this framework. We're also going to be engaging with the General Assembly, sharing more with them. They've also been invited to a lot of these meetings. So we have had Representative Tipton, who is actually a member of the council, and other representatives and senators that have joined us over the last couple years at different times during this whole process. Then we'll be moving into an advocacy phase. That advocacy phase, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that during my next steps. So let's go on to the next slide, please. It's not changing on my end, but I'm going to go on. There we go. So the October convening was our last in-person meeting that we had. And at that time, we still had prototype 4.0 in place. So we shared with the council members feedback that we had received from a statewide survey that went out on prototype 4.0. We talked about local accountability, assessments, state accountability, federal, and reporting. We also had several districts, which you'll see there on the screen, that came and shared with us what they have been working on when it comes to their local accountability. We had 36 districts who were involved in focus groups. 18 of them are local laboratories of learning, which we call our L3s, and they are districts who were really on the forefront of all of this work. And then there were 18 other districts that were chosen, looking demographically, looking from a geographical perspective, really just trying to get a wide swath of differing districts. So high performing, low performing, middle of the road, east, west, north, south, central. And so all of these districts made up those 36. And we have innovation specialists in our division of innovation who are kind of placed geographically and really led this work of going out, meeting with these districts and running some focus groups, which gave us more feedback on prototype 4.0. So again, all of that data was shared with our council members. The second day, this was a 2-day convening. On the second day, we talked about just the different, can you go, there we go. Yeah, we talked about the current system, the proposed changes, and what the changes might look like. And then the takeaway from that meeting was for KDE and its partners to move forward with putting together an actual framework. Now you can go to the next slide. And so that framework, as I said, has been put together. It was shared with the board yesterday, and we are now in the process of putting together that version 2.0 of the framework. In January, the commissioner is going to be going on a roadshow, if you will, going to conduct town hall meetings. We have 9 of them lined up, 1 in each of our regions, as well as a virtual meeting for that will be just Spanish speaking. Go on to the next slide. All right, so what I wanted to do with all of you today is just have some conversation about what local accountability might look like in your district or for you. And I think it's really interesting, especially when we talk about career and technical education, because one of the things that we're really focused on is that community engagement. And I think everybody in this room would agree that when it comes to education, CTE is probably better connected with communities than any of our A1 schools. You're out there, you're doing the things that are going to put our kids into the community, into business, and I think that's really exciting. So I don't know that I have the right question here, but I'd really like for you to think about what is important to you. If your superintendent came to you and asked you, what should we be focused on when it comes to local accountability? From a CTE perspective, what does that look like for you? What do you think is important for kids to get to that next level, whatever that may look like for them? I do have this question on the screen, but I don't want you to be, I don't want you to read that and feel like you have to stick with that question. I'm really looking for some open dialogue here when it comes to local accountability and from a CTE perspective.
So Karen, I'll break
thoughts?
the ice if that's okay. I
Absolutely.
think from my perspective, I mean, one of the things that I think we do really well are our industry certifications, and that's just one thing. But I think, you know, when a student graduates high school with industry certifications, that is absolutely a lead into the business. And it also helps them out, you know, with the skills that they've learned in secondary to move on to post-secondary. But I'll just throw that one single out just to open the space.
And I'll throw something out too, and talk with Dr. Pate, who's one of our board members and also president of ECTC. He mentioned that not only taking those certifications a step farther and saying, what about making sure they actually get jobs? You know, once they get the certifications, do they apply it? And so from the secondary, from the post-secondary perspective, and even some in our areas too, is making sure we get students on a pathway not only to get the certifications, but make sure they're applying those certifications into job roles. So I thought, you know, those are things that it's great to hear those type of conversations. You know, it's great to have students that are ready, they're career ready, but also too, how do we make sure that they get into a job or to a career with those certifications?
Thank you. Would love to hear from some of our members.
Hi, this is Mike Hesketh. I'm in Shelby County. We've had the leadership of our school, Shelby County, has been just doing a fantastic job. Our challenges of CTE have certifications, absolutely, but what we're really encouraging is just the exposure, that our students get a chance to experience things they think that they're interested in. This past year, we've introduced a new thing they called senior surveys, where they invited community members to come in and meet with seniors and participate in surveying them about what their plans are and what they've done. The intent is to move this back to all the way to 8th grade as we go forward. But it was very clear that we have some seniors that had a plan, not a very concrete plan, but in some cases, one of the students I met with he was playing football. He was going to his plan was he was going to get a scholarship and go to college. And the question was, well, how sure are you about that scholarship? And what are you planning to study? And where are you going to go? And I'll go where I get the scholarship, and it was more, I'll study whatever is best at the school. Well, the football season's over. It was a good year, but not the kind of year that this student is likely going to get a scholarship. And so now they're pivoting and saying, I don't know, I think I might like to go into diesel mechanic or something to that effect. Well, we have our ATC has a wonderful diesel mechanic program. And the question was, have you had a chance to assess that right at our ATC? And his answer was no. And then do you think you could enroll in the diesel mechanic class in the spring semester? And he said, I'm not sure my schedule will permit. So that was an example I shared with our group this morning when we met, our senior staff at the school, and they're already on this. They're working on schedule changes, getting our 2 high schools on the same schedule, making the schedules more flexible so that CTE, that students can pursue something. And if they find that particular path, they've had students give feedback that they were afraid to change, even though they've lost interest in that particular pathway. They didn't want to change because it would throw their entire schedule off and graduation would be jeopardized, et cetera. And so our school is doing a great job of hearing the community say, we want kids to try things out. We want them to experience where they can through our school, and where they can't, by inviting the community in. 2 of the young ladies were looking to go down the healthcare path, and we as community members have a contact with Norton Healthcare and U of L, and we lined up job shadowing and other things for them. So the offerings through our CTE program are great. The exposure for our students is key, and our community being drawn in through the school's efforts for this accountability change has been really, really good.
Thank you for
so
sharing,
much.
Mike.
Yeah, and we love bragging on Shelby. So
They're a good group, and our school leadership has been embracing all of the feedback, and and really going after community involvement as one of the early L3s.
Yep.
Thank you. That's great. Karen, do you want to call on who the hands that are up, or do you want me to?
If you will, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Alisher's next.
Good morning, you all. And I too apologize to not be there in person, just across town here. So my name is Alisher Barukanoff. I am the Executive Director of the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board. We're a business-led entity within the Education and Labor Cabinet to advise the governor on workforce needs. And so we too have been on a listening session, strategic understanding what is important to companies and our industry. And we continuously hear the work-based learning part, right? Whatever ship it is, whether it's an apprenticeship, internship, mentorship, if it's formalized, not formalized, just that career exposure aspect, I think, to build on previous comments that were said. And we often hear like the skills of bedside manner for healthcare, the ability to show up on time, and some of those things you can't really know until you experience it and you're out there in the world as a student, and for the business to kind of see it too. So I just want to say, from the perspective that we hear from the industry, is that ability to, they know students are ready when they get students in their workplace, whatever that industry is, and to see what skills they have and what skills are, what their gaps are, and what can be taught on the job. So just emphasizing that aspect from our membership.
So Alisher, you make me think, one of the other battles that we're kind of fighting right now in education is chronic absenteeism. And I heard you say, just getting an employee who's going to show up on time. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing chronic absenteeism, having a student come in with a resume and showing up on time. So that whole chronic absenteeism is just kind of what was coming to my mind as you were talking about that, and just the importance of being there.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't translate into, into the career world of chronic missing of work.
Right.
But yeah,
right.
it's a good lessons learned in high school and in the secondary world, to show up to school, show up to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kylie, what do you have for us?
Hey, Kylie.
Hey, so kudos to everybody else that's already talked. Those are all great measures and things we definitely need to look at. But there's been multiple studies completed, in Kentuckiana Works, our economic development partner here in Jefferson County, just did another study within a week ago that just proves that career pathway completion makes all the difference in post-high school outcomes for students. So I think we'd be remiss if we don't pay attention to that data. It always shows that students are doing better in college. They do better in the workforce. They're employed at a higher rate, and they make more money when they complete CTE pathways. And so can't underscore the importance enough of completing those CTE pathways while in high school. So just want to give a shout out to that, as usual.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And this is Harmony. I'll echo or build off one thing Kylie said, and then I want to add something. But similarly, just as those outcomes he said, we see that as well for students who take dual credit courses, right? Universally, they're more likely to go to post-secondary, they're more likely to persist, they're more likely to have better grades, et cetera. And that is universal, even though we have certain populations that are overrepresented. Even for the underrepresented populations, when we isolate them, they outperform their own counterparts if they took dual credit. So I know dual credit, is more prevalent in certain areas than in others, but it's such a proven strategy that I think we need to just keep that at the forefront. Then I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit, Karen, since everybody's focused so much on, particular skills to particular careers, which I completely agree with. So I'm just not going to add to that bucket, if you will. There was something I heard the other day when I was at the University of Louisville that's really struck with me, and that is for how certain behaviors, whether we take the chronic absenteeism that's come up already in this conversation, or other things like these transferable soft evergreen skills, whatever you want to call it, everybody has a different name for it, is what can we do to hardwire those in our students, right? So that translates into professional behaviors that we're all looking for and seeing, because communication skills are prevalent no matter what profession you are in, right? Teamwork, independent work, critical thinking. I mean, every single one of them are prevalent. So I don't know what the answer is, but I was just really struck with how UK is taking this perspective of trying to hardwire particular behaviors. And students, they of course have lots of money and can incentivize students and are doing that with money. But I don't know what we can do, obviously in kindergarten, or now, in elementary school, which is where my son is, it's still about those rewards that you get so you can go and buy something at the end of the month. He just excitedly told me this morning he bought a voucher to get out of homework for a week, and that gave him a lot of incentive to earn those points. But what does that translate to for high school students, right? So that we can start hardwiring these behaviors. So I don't have the answer, but it's something I'm mulling over.
Thank you. I love that.
Anyone else on this topic? Karen, does that conclude your conversation, or did you have some more information for us?
Well, on the next slide, I do have a link. I would love for everyone here to, as an advisory group, you're kind of ambassadors for KDE. So if you would have a link here, if everybody could go out and talk to somebody around your stakeholder group. So if you're a business leader, talk to other business leaders. I would love to get more feedback, especially from business leaders. This is one area that we do not have enough voices when it comes to hearing what's important to those business leaders. So we're looking for that. I was hoping this group would be one that could help us with that. But we're also in these town halls. You are all invited to attend the town halls that are coming to your region, and would like you to also spread the word. We're working on a flyer right now for each of the regions that have the date and location. They're all going to be in January, but the more we can spread the word and the more you can help us do that would be really appreciated. If you all have this slide, then you have the link. If not, maybe Beth or your chairperson can send that out to everyone. But I really appreciate your time, and I know that you'll be hearing a lot more about this new accountability model. So I hope to see you involved in other ways as well. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Yes, thank you for coming to sharing the information, and thank you everybody for the engaging conversation. We always want these meetings to be more than sit and get, right? So it's wonderful when everybody shares and wants to give some feedback.
If I could, just as a final note on that, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but I mean, we know that in career and technical education, our students want to come to school because they enjoy that. And we have so many stories, and I know Stacy Thompson could certainly attest to this, and Kylie, those, and Mike as well, those kids want to come because they enjoy what they're doing. And I think it boils down to what the Cool Council is doing, the relevant instruction, the engaging hands-on relevant skills. And so we just need to market ourselves better. And so I really appreciate you bringing up this conversation.
Great. Thanks, Beth.
And to some degree, I think we can probably help the students market us too, right? They would love to put together either a little video or have some kind of competition or, whatever, but they're more likely to listen if it's from their peers. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to turn the conversation or the agenda over now to our guests who are here from Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. And if you'll start by introducing yourselves and let us know what you have to share.
Okay, very good. I am Tim McDonald. I'm the State Director for Junior ROTC. I am joined by Colonel Edmund Chilton, a new teammate. So now we have 2 people of the 6. And I'd like to say, Dr. Fletcher, CS is kind of a product of some of those initiatives you talked about in your remarks. Well, thankful for that, and really thankful from the entire OCTE team for bringing us on board. It's been fantastic, smooth. It's been kind of interesting to work with the federal side and work with the state side simultaneously. I can give you some stories about that later. It's been educational, to say the least. But thank you for the time. So what we like to do in 4 slides is describe to the entire group really what we do for those that are not aware of it. So junior ROTC at the school level is widely known by those that have it, and maybe pretty widely known by those that don't have it and would like that. But our office Primarily we're comprised of, will be comprised of 6 people. And they will work at the state level. And that's provide state level leadership on all things junior ROTC. Our original mandate was to do that specifically for the Army. And it continues to be that. Now, we completely acknowledge that we have other services with junior ROTCs in the state. So we're going to be the primary advocate for those juniors as well. And really what that means is that the vertical communication structure for the instructors that might not want to talk to a service regional representative, but they want to talk to the state rep because it's a state issue or it's a state question. That's already proved to be something that the instructors are using, whether it's the Navy, the Air Force, or the Marine Corps. Our primary goal is to be that oversight element for the state on all things junior ROTC. How do we do that? We'll start next spring on what we call the junior ROTC program accreditation. We'll see at least 24 weeks. We'll take a team with Army standards for curriculum, be it drill and ceremonies, the curriculum itself in classroom, interview cadets, interview cadre. We'll take a team out for a day and we'll go through a little checklist. It looks a little bit like an audit, but it's not. It's not an inspection. The goal of these JPAs is to accredit the organization and make them better at the end of the look. That's really where we're going to spend most of our time. The prep for that and the execution is pretty time intensive. Probably about 75% of our time to go to that, the entire team. So that's the oversight aspect, but it's to really enhance junior ROTC across the state and less about being a gotcha kind of look. Recruiting is a big deal. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but how helping the schools, the districts get the right instructor at the right time. We're going to insist with that because that is just something that's hard for them to do. That's one of our other primary roles. And we're positioned pretty well for that. Primarily, we operate, here at in Frankfort, and out at Fort Knox, and at Fort Campbell. Those are great places, great sources for at least our work-based occupational teachers, the junior ROTC instructors. So that's easy for us to do, and we're putting a lot more effort into that. The next thing is serving as the primary POC for not just the instructors, but administrators. And I'll tell you, at this point, probably about 50% of the contacts I've had with administrators and instructors, or with the entire group, it's about a 50-50. It's instructors, it's CTE coordinators, it's administrators, and that's good. I'm hopeful that, opportunities like this gets the word out and we get more questions of fact, or maybe even some recommendations. We're good with innovative ideas too. And of course, curriculum. It's a bit unique how we handle curriculum. It'll come straight from U.S. Army Cadet Command. It'll come to us and immediately it goes out to the instructors. So our curriculum will change quickly and the instructors are the primary points of contact at the local level for any of those changes. And they're happy to keep administrators informed on what those changes are. And generally speaking, there'll be very minimal changes, but we did have some this year. So I'll stop there for any questions on that slide. Anybody? Okay.
Is there any? Yeah. No, I was just going to make sure if anybody had a question online.
Talking fast. I'm sorry.
No, we have time.
No, I just asked a question in the chat. Is this Army only, or is it Air Force, Marine, and Navy as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So and this may sound a bit wordy, but our primary mandate is for Army or junior ROTC. And it's not a but, it's an and. And we will be the primary advocate for other service junior ROTCs in the state. Whether that's questions of curriculum, what's a pathway question here at the state level, a national credentialing process. We're right now working, and Kathy Hone, my teammate there's worked more on this than I have, working on getting the Air Force into the national credentialing for the NOCD leadership and employability credential. The Army and the Air Force will have that by the beginning of next year. And we're, it's the conversations that we need to have with the Navy and the Marine Corps do the same thing. We do that as well. Does that make sense?
Kylie, also, and I know some of you are probably aware of this, but this is a national pilot. So Kentucky is the first state to actually have this at the state level. And we're really excited about that. So, and I'll let the colonels kind of explain this. You know more about how this works as far as why, how it works as far as the number of programs within a county or whatever, and how we actually came to this point, if you don't mind to elaborate on that.
Right. So, and we'll use Kentucky as an example. So we have 97 junior RTCs in the state. That's all services. That's over 150 instructors of all services. That's not centralized in any way until we built this office. What we've seen in the past is when you've got that much dispersion, you really need a central element to be that state level leadership on all things curriculum, finances, these sorts of things, contracts. I mean, these are complicated things for instructors to do in their busy day. So really serve as that centralized element of administrative and kind of operational management, if you will, at the state level. So hopefully we'll be successful after this pilot. And if it is successful, the Army will have a choice to make it a national program of record for other states. There's other states that I've already been talking to that are working with folks to get something changed so they can have a state, California and Texas have already talked to me. So we've generated not only a state conversation about what we do and how helpful it's supposed to be, but a national conversation on what it could do for other states.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. It's okay. To add to the question, first of all, as a principal and a superintendent, the JRTC programs have been phenomenal. They really turn around the lives of a lot of students that we've worked with, but also too, it's pointed out those leaders that we have and grown them to be better leaders. But one of the things that you said was 97 programs. When you say 97 programs, are you talking about 97 programs in 97 high schools or 97 counties? For example, some of our counties and our districts have multiple high schools. So when we say 97 programs, are we talking about 97 and 97 high schools?
97 host programs. So that was either an ATC or in high school.
Okay.
Now we actually have more high schools participating in the program than 97.
Okay.
That number, to be honest, right now, I don't know what it is, but I'm still figuring out because I'll have a phone call and be like, well, we have 4 schools that come to our high school as feeder schools. That's an easy way to expand the program. I'll talk a bit more about that later. So the number of students from high school is actually more than that, but we have 97 host programs where you have an instructor in a classroom presenting material to students/cadets.
And one of the issues we always had was having an NCO and a CO.
Right.
That was, I'm assuming that requirement is still there to have both. Okay.
It is. And I'll talk to some ways to get after that as well in the subsequent slide. So there we go. So just some of the initiatives, and this isn't all. This is just some kind of highlighting. So in the oversight aspect of what we do, there's a right way to do it, and there's an unright way to do it, if you will. So in order to know what we're doing, we have to train on those accreditations. We'll get training from the Army, and we'll get training from the Inspector General at Fort Knox, just to make sure that there's a confidentiality aspect of what we do and that sort of thing. So that's to make sure that our folks that are involved in the JPAs understand kind of the importance of what we're doing as an official function. Okay, hometown instructors. So in Kentucky, like most states, we've got the benefit of a National Guard. That's a great resource for our future instructors. I'll talk in a minute about some opportunities for them. So we just spoke to the National Guard last week, and they're on board with advertising to their teammates that might be separating on opportunities to come be an instructor for junior RTC. And they could do it actually while they're serving. They don't have to be retired. STEM Academy, this has been an expansion. What we'd like to do, so traditionally when you go to the Junior RTC Cadet Leadership Challenge camp during the summer, it's traditionally kind of like Army stuff you would recognize if you saw it, right? People in the mud, people climbing over obstacles, much yelling, much screaming, much happy people, much cheering, right? Not every student is interested in that, and that's not something that we primarily do in Junior RTC. So we have a lot of STEM interest in Junior RTC cadets. You'll go to some high schools and you'll walk into Junior RTC and there's drones, there's robotics, there's 3D printing, there's programming going on. That's new. So what we like to do is create an element of the Leadership Challenge Camp that has a STEM academy, if you will, in it. And that's really going to be an internal OCTE thing, but we can also work externally in universities and maybe in the private sector the states that have done that successfully, that's the model they follow. So we're looking at a way to do the block.
We talked about STLP.
Again, but not yet.
We might want to. So STLP is this enormous kind of robotics technical competition that happens at Rupp Arena in the spring. I don't know how many people. 25,000 or
Well,
something.
the last S2P that they had in Ruff actually had more students and more people involved than the state boys championship basketball game the weekend before.
Yeah. So it's huge. So, but some of the programs might be interested. Some of the schools might already be participating in STLP, but if they aren't, some of those programs might be real interested in learning about it.
And Chris, we have TSA in our office as well, which is a national organization. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in both of those.
Yeah. The other thing is really serving as an interface between the juniors and the senior programs in the universities. Really getting after that connection of post-secondary activities, and that's easy for us to do because we're all in the same Army command back at Fort Knox in that respect. But for an instructor to do that at the high school is a bit of a tough ask. So we'll fill that void where we can. We talked about credentialing. We talked about recruiting. So we're doing an assessment now on work-based learning internships for high school seniors. Just trying to see if there's an opportunity that we can take, whether it's with one of the senior ROTC programs we have at UK or Louisville. There's something we could do there, or maybe even with the National Guard. So we're assessing if that's something that we could pursue, and more to follow on that. Hopeful on that we'll find a connection there. And then the last one. Local administrators are going to be more aware of this than most. The Department of Defense issued 3 new forms that came out as part of federal law last year. These are new required forms. If there's any assistance with understanding these forms or why you have them on your desk, please contact us and let us know. The one that's listed on the slide is beneficial for a lot of reasons, and the title kind of gives it away. But it's the only DoD form that's in both English and Spanish. We do have some schools that have a lot of Spanish-speaking students. But it also has a consent block in there for the parent to consent the student/cadet's photo and likeness to be taken and broadcast on social media. We do a lot of photos at these big activities like the Ranger Challenge. It's very important that we have consent. And now it's codified in this document. And of course, the parent could not consent, and the instructor would have to take the appropriate action there. I'll stop there for any questions. And if there's none, I'll move to the next slide. I talked a bit about JCLC, and this is kind of partnership. So the JCLC at Wendell Ford is a partnership between us and the National Guard. It's one of the biggest cadet training events in the country. You'll have 80 schools that'll show up there for 2 weeks. And we really couldn't do it without the support of the National Guard at Wendell Ford. And of course, we do one down at Bluegrass Army Depot. So talking about the feeder schools, there's a great opportunity and there's a great demand for more junior ROTC programs in the state. There is an initiative at U.S. Army Cadet Command to expand junior ROTCs. That's good news. We're going to be able to expand some in the state. How much that is, I don't really know yet, because that's really at the discretion of the commanding general. That's for the full up junior programs. The other way to get junior ROTC cadets in your school is through what's called the National Defense Cadet Corps, NDCC. So if anybody is motivated to get uniformed students in their hallways and they can't get a junior, give us a call. Let's talk about how we could get an NDCC. The NDCCs are primarily funded by the school. So we'll provide the curriculum. We may be able to provide uniforms. We will provide the books. The primary thing that the school would be on the hook for is the salary for the instructor. We'll take care of the training and everything else. So if anybody's interested in NDCCs, there's not a waiting list for those. It's all about funding. And we can talk about that as well. So great opportunity there.
Quick question about NDCC,
Yes,
if you don't mind. Currently, with your officers that are instructors, it's a 240-day contract. So with these these particular individuals, would it be a 240-day contract or 185-day contract? What would that look like?
It would be, I mean, that's a really good question. So it's one that would be negotiated between the administrator and the instructor. It could be anyone or what you just highlighted or somewhere in between.
Okay.
So the fact that they're paying the salary, they negotiate the contract for days
Okay.
at their discretion.
Because that'd be a difference in, a third of the salary.
Absolutely.
Is what it would look like. So.
And there's ways to do that, of course.
Mhm.
Less hours, less contact time, but you still meet the objective of getting it in the classroom. Yeah, absolutely. But the goal there is to get as much access to junior RTC to every student that wants to participate in. Not every school having it, it's every student that wants access, having that access to the program. The skill bridge. So it's one of the unique ways that we bring on new instructors. I was part of the DoD skill bridge to come into the team. Colonel Chilton was DoD skill bridge as well. That's a really great opportunity for us to take service members, bring them on board as interns, unpaid interns, to participate and help the team. If there's a place for them on our team, we'll bring them on board. If there's not, they could go work at another place. So it's a great program that the Department of Defense has, and we look forward to continuing to use that. And we talked about the vacancies. So last slide here is a new program on eligible instructors. So Colonel Chilton and I are under the old system. He will soon be a retired veteran. I am a retired veteran. Used to be you had to be a retired veteran with at least 20 years, officer, NCO, or warrant officer. That's no longer the case. The new eligibility rule says you can be a retired veteran, or you can retire as a National Guardsman, active duty Army, or reservist after 10 years of service and honorably separated. That the volume of possible recruits went up significantly with this change. It also could mean younger instructors, not that has an impact on things, but it might. But they just can't have 5 year separation from the Army. So this is a big deal, a big change. But you have to have an associate's degree or higher. The rank requirements remain as listed there, staff sergeant or higher. And we can take an active guardsman. And this is what we talked to the adjutant general last week was if there was a guardsman that's interested in being a junior RTC instructor and they live in they live down near Rock Castle High School and they want to teach there, there's an arrangement that we can come to as long as the commanding officer approves it. So that's a great opportunity too. And then the last thing about the pay is it's different. This is a new pay system for instructors now and us. The good thing about it is it's much easier to figure out and it's highly competitive. So if you're a staff sergeant that served for 10 years and you come out of the Army, the pay system that we have under it's called this JSIPS is very, very competitive to the private sector, to other public sector jobs. So we're looking forward to that too as an incentive to bring on these new instructors that we need in the state and actually across the nation.
Just so you all know, with that associate degree requirement, if you have people that are kind of looking ahead but don't have an associate's, if they're in Kentucky, the Work Ready Scholarship would pay for their associate degree.
Okay.
So they could,
certain fields.
Well, yeah, in the top 5 man fields, but they could get essentially an associate degree paid for. I mean, I'm sure, I guess, as veterans and
right,
there's probably a lot of other
right
options too, but
yeah,
there is that scholarship that's out there, and it's just kind of a blanket. There's no strings attached other than being in the top 5 man.
Yeah, and there is an incentive inside the pay scale. It does pay based on your grade and separation from the military. But it also incentivizes more pay with higher education. So as you go up that scale of education, the highest, of course, being a PhD, you get more pay. So there's an incentive built in for people to seek out those opportunities that may be retail to get a pay increase. So team, that's all I have for today. Anything before I finish? Okay, I'll just take the question.
One question. Obviously, there's a lack of instructors right now. You said there were
23.
Okay.
Right.
So are there any schools in the state that are working together? Let's say you have a county that has 2 different districts in it. Do you have anybody that's any sharing there of, where students are coming from another district to a program in a school or?
We do. I don't know that they're doing it for that reason, but we do have schools that are busing students over to other schools.
Okay.
And that's the other thing about the feeder school. and it has to be understood, is the cost of busing that student over to another school is time. I mean, generally speaking, you don't want to lose more than 2 hours in a school day, I would think. And then there's the cost of the bus and the bus driver, or any sort of associated cost that comes from the school as well. So they go into that knowing they're going to invest time and money that they're really going to do that. So,
Thank you.
if that makes sense.
Kylie?
Yeah, so a couple comments. One, this is awesome. So glad that Kentucky was selected for this. We've struggled with JROTC and just the support there, and just trying to, just being honest, a lot of CTE folks, even though JROTC is considered CTE, we don't really understand JROTC very well. And so trying to get support there and get input there, and so that we can better support our teachers. This is an awesome thing. We had to actually close the program due to not being able to find an instructor for Marines. And so the fact that there are going to be some changes to allow a bigger candidate pool, that's exciting as well. The question I have is about curriculum in JROTC. You talked about how some students are not as interested in the typical JROTC experience, but they're more into the drones and the STEM aspect of that. Is there any thoughts about changing the set curriculum of that 4-course sequence right now to embed more of that into the JROTC programs in the schools?
We have. So the 5th year, we call it the 5th year. It's not an actual 5th year, but it's full of electives. So we've integrated the electives into the curriculum, and then inside the lessons, whether it's freshman to senior, we've integrated some STEM related topics inside the lesson plans. And then for the extracurricular activities, I mean, if the junior RTC has got, I mean, we send drones, we send robotics kits, archery and rifle are typically what we're known for, but we have robotics and drones and kind of a cyber. There's also a cyber aspect. We have an initiative right now. We out in Kentucky nationally, we have cyber junior OTCs being stood up at certain schools. That's kind of a pilot to see if that is something that's attracted the students and their administrators. So we're on that road to integration with STEM. We acknowledge that it's something that we need to do, and we're doing it. Where we're going to end up in the next few years, it'll be fun to see where that goes. But yes, it is being integrated now, and I expect there'll be more in the future, if that makes sense.
That's great. Thank you so much. On the 5th year elective, is that the JROTC leadership class that we're talking about, or are we thinking about adding new JROTC classes?
Right. No, that's the one. Yeah, there's a lot of leadership classes in the 5th year. It's it'll be Let 5 the elective year. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I echo what Kylie said. It's so exciting that you all are piloting in the state of Kentucky, and it's nice that we can set the example.
One quick
Yes.
comment. As you all think about the timing, so funding only runs through this current biennium, and I know you're just getting kind of going, but we may need another ABR to extend it another 2 years. Yeah. And then relatedly, we probably need to reach out to the VMAP chairs and see if we can get presentations to VMAP to talk about kind of how the pilot's going, what you all have done, it's coming up, kind of set the stage for the ABR. But that ABR will, the next round of funding is starting. That's what I'm trying to say. So
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't want it to run out.
No. Oh, good point. Good point. Well, with only 2 minutes left, I'm going to try to get us across the finish line here. We do not have quorum, so we are either going to do the approval of minutes electronically, or we'll put it on the next meeting agenda. Speaking of the next meeting agenda, we are set to meet in May. Since there's not enough of us here, we'll take care of finding a date via email as well. So I was asked to do some reflection and adjournment, but I think we run out of time for that too. But please let myself or any of the fine staff at KDE know if you have any suggestions for agenda items, discussion topics, etc. We will continue to do the hybrid meeting because I know depending on where you are in the state, it is easier to join us that way or not, but you are always welcome to join us in person. And if we want to talk about having, a reason for us all to convene and have either more of a workshop type meeting or something like that, that is obviously on the agenda as well. But I could not be more excited about the things that have been shared today and the things that have been accomplished with you all this year. I think, per your comments, when we opened the meeting, there's so many exciting things going on. And I know there's a lot of things we haven't heard about yet. So let's figure out a way to make sure that not only we know, but the state knows about the awesome things that our students are doing and that this office is doing. So with that, I wish everybody a wonderful holiday, and we will close the meeting by acclamation. So could somebody make a motion, please? To adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.